Have you ever wondered why some experiences transform us whilst others just wash over us? Why can two people hear the same teaching and have completely different outcomes? Today's chapter isn't a story. It's something perhaps even more valuable. Ancient wisdom about how to create the conditions for genuine transformation. Think of it as the user's manual for consciousness change. This teaching has been adapted for modern audiences, based on J.L. Shastri's English translation. Saunaka leant forward with the intensity of someone who just realized something crucial. The stories had been incredible, but now he wanted to understand the mechanics. Sutha, O highly intelligent disciple of Vyasa, I bow to you. You're truly blessed, and amongst the foremost of Shiva's devotees. Your attributes are genuinely praiseworthy. But tell me, what are the actual rules for listening to the Shiva Purana? How do we create the conditions so that listeners can obtain the full benefits? I want to understand the complete framework. Sutha smiled, recognizing the wisdom in the question. Saunaka, I'm glad you asked. Let me share with you the complete guidelines for listening to the Shiva Purana so that the entire fruit of this practice can be realized through proper observance. First, let's talk about the practical arrangements. A householder who wants to host such a discourse should invite an astrologer to determine an auspicious day for beginning, one that ensures the entire series can conclude, without obstacles interrupting in the middle. Then, news must be circulated that this auspicious discourse is going to take place, and that everyone who seeks genuine well-being should attend. And here's something important. Women, people from all social backgrounds, and especially those who are usually far removed from holy discourses, and who stay away from spiritual discussions. They must particularly be invited to this discourse, so they may receive some real enlightenment. Sutha's voice grew warmer. Wherever there are devotees of Shiva in the neighborhood, people genuinely eager to listen to sacred stories, they must be invited with due reverence. The invitation should be warm and humble. Please, with devotion, join us for imbibing the sweet nectar of the Shiva Purana with proper reverence. If you don't have much time, please grace the assembly for at least a day. By all means, do come, even for a short stay or just for a while. Those who respond to the invitation should be received with genuine hospitality in every respect. Now, about the venue. An excellent spot must be selected, ideally in a Shiva temple, or in a holy center, or in a beautiful park, or even in someone's home, if it can accommodate everyone properly. The ground must be thoroughly scrubbed, cleaned and traditionally smeared with cow dung for purification. It should be decorated with care and attention to detail, creating an atmosphere that's divinely exquisite and pleasing to diverse sensibilities. All rubbish must be removed. Unnecessary things should be tucked away out of public view. The space should be clear and uncluttered. A high platform should be constructed and richly decorated, traditionally with plantain tree stumps, though the principle is beauty and elevation. The whole place should be covered with a canopy. Fresh fruits and flowers should be used generously throughout the space. Flags and banners should be displayed in the 4 directions, neatly arranged to create a festive, uplifting atmosphere for everyone. Sutha continued with specific details. A special seat must be designated for Shiva himself, the Supreme Soul. Think of it as honoring the invisible presence of the divine. A comfortable, elevated seat shall be prepared for the speaker. Good places should be reserved for regular attendees, befitting their commitment. For casual visitors, seats with ordinary comfort can be set apart, but everyone should feel welcome. The atmosphere should be as pleasant and joyful as at a wedding celebration. All worldly worries and anxieties must be consciously set aside during this time. Regarding directions, the speaker may face north whilst listeners face east. There's no concern about the positioning of feet crisscrossing, or the speaker may face east like a priest performing worship, or simply let the speaker and listeners face each other directly. Here's an important protocol. As long as the speaker is seated in the position of discourse, they don't bow to anyone, regardless of who arrives, until the conclusion of the session. This maintains the sacred space and authority of the teaching. Whether the Purana scholar is young or old, wealthy or poor, strong or weak, if they're truly well-versed in the sacred text, they're worthy of honor from everyone who seeks spiritual merit. Sutha's voice grew more serious. Never, and I mean never, Should anyone show demeaning disrespect towards a Purana scholar, the words from their mouths are no less valuable than the wish-fulfilling divine cow Kamadhenu for all who listen. There are many who might be called guru, teacher or elder, either by birth or by their qualities. But amongst them all, the Puranic scholar occupying the teaching seat is to be regarded as the greatest guru in that moment. After all, who can be a greater guide than the person who offers the path to highest liberation for those who are disheartened due to countless previous births and their accumulated patterns? The person who undertakes to conduct such a discourse must possess certain qualities. They should be well versed in the Puranas, pure in intention, skillful in presentation, calm in demeanor, free from malice, genuinely saintly in character, sympathetic to the listener's needs, and eloquent in expression. The intelligent speaker should begin the narration at sunrise and continue earnestly for approximately 7.5 hours, with appropriate breaks. This sacred story should never be narrated before rogues, people engaged in deliberately harmful professions, or those who attend merely to win arguments and prove others wrong. The discourse shouldn't be conducted in places frequented by genuinely wicked people, areas surrounded by thieves, or in the house of someone known for deceit. The speaker should have a break of about 48 minutes at midday for answering calls of nature and taking brief rest. Ideally, the speaker should have their meal the day before the discourse to maintain a kind of fast during teaching. During the discourse days, they should perform their daily spiritual practices, prayers, meditation, etc., in a brief, condensed form. Another scholar equally well versed in the Puranas should sit near the main speaker to provide support. This assistant must be competent to clear doubts and eager to help enlighten the people. To ward off any obstacles to the discourse, Lord Ganesha should be worshipped at the beginning. Shiva himself, the lord of this story, and the physical book of the Shiva Purana should also be worshipped with genuine piety and respect. Sutha shifted his focus to the audience. Now, about the listeners. The story must be heard with careful, focused attention. Recipients should be intelligent, pure in mind, genuinely delighted in their hearts, and respectful of the conventions that create sacred space. If either the speaker or the listeners indulge in too many distracting activities, if they're victims of the 6 base impulses, lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, and envy, if they're obsessively fixated on romantic pursuits, or if they're closed-minded cynics, they simply won't gain the real merit of this practice. But if someone consciously sets aside their worries about worldly affairs, concerns about wealth, home, family obligations, and with a pure mind concentrates their full attention on the discourse, they'll receive excellent results. Listeners who are endowed with genuine faith and piety, who don't eagerly pursue other activities during the teaching, who remain unruffled, pure in intention, and restrained in needless chatter, these people derive great spiritual benefit. Sutha's tone became more cautionary. On the other hand, people of base nature who listen to this holy story without proper respect don't receive any particular merit from it. In fact, their closed-mindedness may actually increase their suffering and future experiences. Those who don't honor this Purana with offerings, according to their capacity, are acting foolishly. Even if they physically attend, they won't be genuinely purified. They may even find themselves facing poverty and lack. Those who walk out of the gathering in the middle of the discourse will face disruption, the destruction of their relationships and resources, right in the midst of what seemed like security. The descendants of people who attend the discourse whilst maintaining arrogant postures, like keeping their heads covered when it should be uncovered as a sign of respect, will become troubled individuals who bring dishonor to their lineage. Sutha continued with increasingly specific warnings. Those who chew betel leaves whilst listening, showing they're more interested in sensory pleasure than spiritual teaching, will face the karmic consequence of having to consume their own waste in hellish states of consciousness. Those who position themselves on seats higher than the speakers, showing prideful superiority, will fall into states of degraded consciousness and be reborn in lowly circumstances, as crows, symbolizing scavenger consciousness. Those who listen while sitting, in inappropriate meditation postures, meant for advanced yogis, basically showing off spiritual pride, will fall into hellish states and be reborn in toxic circumstances, like poisonous plants. Those who listen without first bowing respectfully to the speaker will experience the fruits of disrespect, becoming like Arjuna trees that bear no useful fruit. Those who, whilst perfectly healthy, listen to the sacred story whilst lying down, showing laziness and disrespect, will be reborn in lethargic, constricted states, like pythons. Those who presume to sit at exactly the same level as the teacher, claiming false equality, commit a sin comparable to violating the teacher's trust and will suffer accordingly. Those who speak ill of the teacher or criticize this sacred story will be reborn in degraded circumstances, living miserable lives through multiple incarnations, servile and wretched. Those who argue and create disputes, whilst the teaching is happening, will fall into hellish consciousness states and be reborn in stubborn, obstinate circumstances, symbolized as donkeys. Those who never bother to listen to this purifying story at all will experience hellish states and be reborn in circumstances of willful ignorance, like wild boars. And the real troublemakers, rogues who actively create hindrances whilst the discourse is being held, will suffer in hellish states for incredibly long periods before being reborn in the most degraded village circumstances. Sutha's voice softened again, becoming encouraging. Understanding all these potential pitfalls, the wise listener will always remain pure in intention, devoted to the teaching and the teacher, and intelligent enough to listen with genuine devotion and respect. To ward off obstacles, Lord Ganesha should be worshipped at the very beginning. At the end of each day's discourse, brief purification rites should be performed to correct any unintentional mistakes or omissions. The 9 planets should be worshipped, along with various protective deities. The physical book itself should be worshipped, according to the rites of Shiva's worship. At the conclusion of the worship, offer prayer to the book, which is to be identified directly with Shiva himself, humbly and piously, joining palms in reverence. Sutha shared the traditional prayer. Thou art the visible form of the great Lord Shiva, manifesting as the Shiva Purana. I have accepted thee for the purpose of listening and learning. Please be pleased with me. May this wish of mine be fulfilled by thee. May this narration of the sacred story be concluded, without any obstacles or interruptions. I am drowning in the middle of the ocean of worldly existence. Please lift me up from it, miserable wretch that I am, with my limbs caught by the crocodiles of karmic actions. O Shankara, I am your humble servant. The householder hosting the discourse should pray to the Shiva Purana, identified directly with Shiva, in words that evoke humility and genuine need. Then begin the proper honoring of the speaker. The speaker should be adorned in the same manner, as in formal Shiva worship, with flowers, fine cloths, ornaments if appropriate, incense, lamps, and other respectful offerings. In the presence of the speaker, the host and participants should formally take their vows of proper conduct and maintain all appropriate restraints with pure minds. These commitments should be maintained throughout the entire discourse, to the extent of each person's capacity. Address the speaker. O foremost of teachers, you who embody the wisdom of Vyasa himself, you who are well versed in the sacred literature of Shiva, please remove my ignorance through the illuminating light of this sacred story. If possible, invite 5 Brahmins, or at least 1 Brahmin, to repeat the sacred Shiva mantra, Namah Shivaya, the 5-syllabled invocation. Sutha concluded, Thus, O sage, I have explained to you the complete rules for properly listening to this story with devotion, as well as the guidelines for those who wish to be truly receptive. What else would you like to hear? So I've been sitting with these guidelines, wondering how many of them I'm actually following, or, let's be honest, probably breaking. And seriously, some of these rules sound ancient. Facing a certain direction, consequences for how you sit. What's really going on here? I was born into a Hindu family, so rituals and ceremonies have always been part of my life. A lot of them still don't make complete sense to me, but over the years, I've learned not to just dismiss them. Instead, I try to pause and reflect, because deep down, this chapter isn't really about superstition. It's about something deeper, setting the foundation, creating the right space, and honoring the process of learning and transmission. Those are ideas I can actually get behind. And okay, I'll admit it. On a slightly superstitious note, I really want this project of mine to actually finish. I didn't call a pundit to find an auspicious time for it or anything. But after reading this chapter, I did ask ChatGPT for a good muhurhut to launch the channel. At the very least, I think times change, and we've got to change with them, while still holding on to the essence of these traditions. The more I think about it, the more I realize these rules might not be strict rules at all. Maybe they're just observations, written in that old-school poetic way, like saying, here's what we've noticed about the kind of environment where transformation really happens. And honestly, it's making me realize how rarely I create those conditions myself, how often I'm only half listening, multitasking, already forming my next argument before the other person's even done talking. At its core, this chapter is really about one thing: attention. Not the kind of attention you give while scrolling your phone, but real, focused, present attention. All those details about posture, direction, and behavior, they're not random rules. They're just ways of preparing your body and mind for transformation. The cleaning, the arranging, the decorating, all of it is about setting the stage for something meaningful. If you want transformation, you've got to create space for it. And I love that the text talks about invitation and respect, like actually calling people, being gracious, showing respect to the teacher, to guests, even to the book itself. And it's true. Even modern research says students who respect their teachers learn better, no matter how skilled the teacher is. Respect opens you up, and openness makes learning possible. Now, those old-school warnings about consequences, being reborn as a crow or a donkey, sound kind of funny today. But maybe they're just saying, hey, don't be a jerk, or it's going to come back around. If you're too busy arguing, showing off, or defending your worldview, you're basically closing yourself off to growth. I'm still figuring out what this means for me day to day. But for now, I'm starting small. Turning off notifications, cleaning my space, giving myself enough time. Simple things that remind me, this matters. In the next episode, we'll wrap up the Mahatmya and finally dive into the actual Purana itself. And I'm genuinely curious, have you ever noticed the difference between casually consuming something and really giving it your full attention? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and of course, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell. Until next time, keep questioning, keep practicing, and keep dancing with the mystic.